Hi everyone. Today we are going to see about convolutional neural networks. And the session objective is now here we are going to explain what is meant by CNN and why CNN is suitable for image data, understanding the basic architectures of CNN, and explain convolution and the role of filters and the kernels using here, and understanding the stride and padding, and explaining the pooling and its different types, understand the importance of activation functions, and explaining ReLU, sigmoid, TANA, and softmax, and understanding the flattening and the fully connected layers. And finally, on is and describe the complete CNN workflow from image input to prediction. Yes, the convolutional networks. What is mean by CNN? Right. uh, in simple words, suppose if I give a computer a photograph of a cat, how can the computer can understand that the image contains a cat? A computer does not directly see the image in the way of humans, right? An image can be represented as a collection of some neural pixels values. For example, if I'm having a grayscale image, can be represented as a 2D grid. It has some of the matrices like 12, 45, 78, 90 in 4 into 4 matrix. A color image can generally contains three channels: red, green, and blue. Therefore, an image can be represented as height, width, and the channel. For example, if I am multiplying the 224 into 224 into 3, here the CNN are specifically designed to process this type of grid-like data. The first one is a grid-based data. It is mainly designed to process the grid-like data, especially images and visual inputs. So in single word, we have say image have some spatial structures. A pixel is related to nearby pixels. The CNN exploit these spatial relationships. And the second one is an hierarchical learning. It can automatically learn features from simple edges to complex patterns, right? In other words, CNN can learn some features progressively. For example, pixels comes under edges, it comes under textures, then it comes under shapes, object parts, and final one is a complete object. The top to down approach means pixel, edges, textures, shapes, object parts, and final one is a complete object. A low layer might be detect an image, while deeper layers can combine those edges to recognize some of the shapes, and final one it gives an object. The third one is an brain inspired, which here the architecture inspired by the visual cortex of the human brain. The architecture is inspired by some way of visual information is processed hierarchically in the visual cortex. The information for the students, the CNN process can visual information stages, rather than it can trying to recognize the complete object or final object input. Fourth one is a vision foundation. Here the CNN have foundationally backbone of modern computer vision applications. For examples, image classification, object recognition, face recognition, medical image analysis, and visual inspections like that. Now we are going to see about the CNN architecture's overview. Here it takes the input from here, right? And it moves to the number of channels 1, 2, 3. And final, the output can be some fully connected or max pooling like that. The common general pipeline of this image is start from input image. The second one is an convolutional. The third one is an activation. Fourth one is an pooling, and again it convolutional and activation pooling. flatten. Then final one is fully connected and it gives the final output, right? The most common concept features is an hierarchy based. Initially, the network receives some raw pixels. The early layers learn some simple patterns. As we move into deeper network representations, become increasingly it abstract one to one. For example, if I'm sharing some any animal images, the layer one it seen to be an edges, and layer two it concentrate on curves or textures, and layer three mainly focuses on eyes, ears, and sharps, and layer 4 can check the object parts, and final layer can check whether it is a cat or dog, like it can predict the picture whether it comes under cat category or dog category. A CNN does not need to manually specify which edges or shapes to look for. The filters are learned during the training model. The CNN processes may input some images through successive layers. Each stage can extracting the increasing abstract representations from raw pixels to high-level semantic features. The key components of conventional neural networks as are conventional layer, pooling layer, activation function, fully connected layers. Um, in conventional layer, the main to apply filters to extract features like edges, textures, patterns from input data. And the second one is in pooling layer. Here we can down some sample features maps to reduce the dimensionality and computational cost. And the third one is an here we can activate non-linearity to so the network can learn some complex curved relationships. And the final one is an fully connected layer. Here we can combine some features to make some final predictions or classifications. Or in simple word, the main one is this conventional layer is mainly used to help some feature extractions. This pooling layer may also helps to downsampling the mapping structures, and the activation part here it can introduce the non-linearity relationships, and finally the fully connected layers can predict the final prediction. This convention is a feature director pooling and summarizer activation provides some non-linear learning capability, and fully connected layers makes the final decisions. The next one is a convolutional layer. This layer is mainly used for a filter slides across the input, performing and element-wise multiplications and summations at each positions to produce output feature maps. And in other basis, this is the most important concept in the CNN session. It explain filter or a kernel is some small matrix that moves across the input images. For example, if I am giving the input 3 cross 3 matrices, it can filter or it can be placed some small region of images. The values are multiplied element by element and then added. If I am giving 1, 2, 4, 5, then it can multiple and add, it can gives the value as 100 minus 1. This the filter moves to the next position. This process can generate some uh, feature upping the mappings. The main objective of conventional network is an applying convention using filters or kernels over the input data, and performing element-wise multiplications and summations to generate feature maps, detect patterns like edges, textures, and shapes, preserve spatial relationships between pixels, and the final one is it uses parameter sharing to reduce model complexity. What is in a key conventional parameters? The major advantages of CNN parameter sharing is instead of having some separate of parameters for every image location, the same filter is reused as it moves across the image. This significantly reduces the model complexity. These conventional parameters can use filters or kernels. A kernel is a small matrix whose values are learned during the training, which means the small matrices that extract specific features, values, or learned during the training. For example, 3 cross 3 kernel, different filters can learn different visual patterns. The second one is in stride, the step size, which tells how many pixels the filter moves at each step. Otherwise, the step size, which the filter moves, or the largest strides produce smaller output dimensions. And if it has some examples, stride 1, move 1 pixel at a time, or stride 2, move 2 pixels at a time. Increasing the stride generally reduces the spatial dimensions of the output. The third one is a padding. Here the padding means adding some values, or typically zeros around the input. Zeros added around the input to control some output size, either valid or same padding. Activation function. Uh, without without padding, the spatial dimensions generally become smaller after conventional. This padding allows us to control the output dimensions also. In activation function, after convolutional, activation function such as a ReLU is commonly applied. This introduces a non-linearity into the network. Otherwise, the non-linear function like ReLU can applied after convolutions to enable some complex learning. The final one is in pooling layers. Here, it can explain the pooling reduces the spatial dimensions of feature maps. If I am giving 4 into 4 cross 4 feature maps, then it gives the three major benefits emphasized in the PPTs, such as reduce computational cost, control overfitting, and retains important informations. It can split up into three types: max pooling, average pooling, global pooling. The major purposes of these poolings are to reduce the spatial dimensions, width, and height of the feature mappings, and downsample while retaining the most important informations, and reduce computation and control overfitting. And it finally it provide some translation invariance, small shifts which doesn't affect any other outputs or single outputs. This max pooling is mainly used for to retrain the strongest activation of the region, which is it selects the maximum value from each region, and it retains prominent features like edges. Average pooling, here it computes the mean value, capture overall feature informations, and in another way, if the future detector strongly identifies an edge or pattern or in a region, max pooling preserves the strong responses. In global pooling, it reduces each channels to a single value used before fully connected layers. Otherwise, the global pooling reduces each channel to a single value. This can be used before fully connected layers. Then next one is an activation functions in neural networks. It may start, why can't we simply stack many linear operations? Without activation functions, even a deep network would effectively behave like a linear model. Here, the way to do some apply activation, introduce non-linearities, learn some complex patterns. Without activation for functions, a networks can behave like simple linear models, incapable of capturing the complexity of real-world data. Common activation functions are ReLU, sigmoid, softmax, TAN. This ReLU which gives us a ReLU of x is equal to maximum of 0 comma x. The most popular hidden layers, computationally efficient and avoid vanishing gradients. This ReLU is widely used in hidden layers because it is computationally efficient and helps with the vanishing gradient problems. And sigmoid, it is very useful for binary classification. Here it squashes some values into the probability. And the third one is an TAN. Here the zero-centered output facilities may be faster, more stable learning. And the final one is in softmax. It is used for multi-class outputs, or it is used for output layer to produce probability distributions across classes. And why the convolutional networks finally gives the fully connected layers means after convolution and pooling we have some feature mappings, right? The network needs to convert these learned features into the final prediction. Typically it found at the end of CNN. These layers are responsible for high level reasonings and combining all learning features to make final predictions. The network needs to convert these learned features into some of the final predictions. That is why we are using the connected layers. Uh, for example, every neuron is a fully connected layer. It is connected to every neuron in previous layer. Before entering the fully connected layer, feature maps are usually flat-earned. The standard neural network layers often the final stages of CNN, and how they are working means each neuron is fully connected with some of the every parts of the layer, and why they are needed means after feature extraction by convolutional and pooling layers, the layers may be splitted or features for classifications. For example, it is an dog or cat like that, or if it takes regression task means some of predicting some age predictions, gender predictions like that. Flattening process means before connecting to final fully connected layer, the 2D or 3D feature maps from previous layers or transformed into a single 1D vectors. Dense connections, this may setup allows the network to learn some complex and non-linear combinations of the extracted features. The final one is an putting it all together. Input images, raw pixel, and convolutionals plus activations. Here it filters extract features, ReLU adds on some non-linearity, then pooling, spatial reduction, retains key informations, and final and fully connected. It has high-level features combined for final predictions. Uh, in basis, some of the key takeaways such as CNN are purpose built for visions and layers working some concern, non-linearity is essentials. The architecture may be mirror how the human visual cortex process spatial informations hierarchically, and convolutional pooling activations and fully connected layers maybe play an distinct role in learning. And the final one, these activation functions maybe unlock the ability to modern complex or real world patterns that the linear model cannot capture. Walk through the complete process means it starts from input image, convolutional, ReLU, pooling, convolutional, then it comes again ReLU, pooling, flatten, fully connected predictions. The image classification means if I am giving the input as dock image, the CNN gradually learns pixels, edges, textures, shapes, dock features, and dock's probabilities. That's all about today's class. And finally, we what are the recap of the convolutional neural networks are? It is designed for main purpose of a vision, and the convolutional extracts some of features. Pooling can reduce the spatial dimensions, and the activation functions introduce some non-linearity. These fully connected layers can be combined for a prediction, and the parameter sharings and pooling makes some convolutional neural networks computational practical. Uh, the major purposes of convolutional neural networks are main components are four layers, which is convolutional layer, pooling layer, activation layer, activation function, and the final one is in fully connected layers. That's all about today's class. Thank you.